a regular participant on the Hoon and here on the Kaka. You'll all know him as an economist from a lot of places, and is now independent and especially dangerous. Great to see you. You've put out a great piece today talking about working for families and the various parts of our welfare system, how they interact, and the perverse consequences of it. Something that I think should be better understood in the wider public. This issue of the effective marginal tax rate. Thank you for coming on. Can you tell us why you decided to write a bit about this?
Well, the why, I suppose, is prompted by the recent talk about sanctions on beneficiaries, and that's obviously been going for about 12 months, but it's ramping up, and the idea that if you're unemployed or you have difficulties finding a job, you should just get off your butt and go out and find one. And those sorts of comments just really hurt and grate, because when I was in the WEAG, we confronted this problem and had people telling us it was the real problem that we've really got to get underneath. And it's the problem is it's not just the welfare system or the benefit system, it's that interaction with the working for families, which is meant to be for those people who are working, so they're not on benefit, and how that interacts with the tax system. It's one of those things that was designed by a committee, designed by about 3 different committees, and none of the 3 court committees talk to each other. And a whole lot of things get tacked onto it later. The last one was the best start that the previous government did, and now we've got, I can't understand. There are lots of things that have been tacked onto it, and that's how you end up with a system that, people fall through the cracks and end up paying a marginal tax rate of 97%.
Yeah, you've put a great working example here of how a pretty normal family find themselves in a situation where at various points, as they do a bit more work to earn a bit more money, they're actually paying a marginal tax rate of 97%. And I wanted to share with our audience a chart that you've put together in your piece. And by the way, we'll make sure that your piece is in the show notes so people can have a look at the real thing.
Thank
so
you.
I'm just going to share this the screen here, and people will be able to see a chart. Can you see that chart there? Yep. So this is what I call, and you call, the beast that is the effective marginal tax rate. Could you explain this chart to people and how what it means there?
Well, I start off with, and it's a hypothetical family, but it's a Taylor and Alex is a family with 2 kids. The kids are over 3, so we don't have to worry about best start, but they qualify for working for families and accommodation supplement, because living in Island Bay with a median rent of $6.25 per week. And what I've posited is Taylor is one partner in the couple works 40 hours a week for $25 a week, so $25 an hour, so slightly higher than the minimum wage. And that's where you start off with the other partner, Alex, not working, so that's 0 hours per week that Alex is employed, and the combination of incomes is Taylor's income, the dark grey bar is the accommodation supplement they're allowed, but that's less than the maximum because of the income they're earning. The orange one is the working for families, which is a bit of family tax credit, and the blue one is the job seeker supplement, the job seeker support payment that that Alex could qualify for, along with the winter energy payment, the WEF or the WEP it should be. But so those things bulk up the family's income to about just under 16 or 1500. I think it's just under 1500 a week that they get in the hand of the yellow bit, the wages as post-tax. And then we progress across this chart as Alex tries to add more and more part-time income, goes to the supermarket and adds a few hours in, and see what that happens to the family's income. The problem is once Alex starts earning however many hours they do, their job seeker supplement starts diminishing by a gut punching 70 cents in the dollar. The orange one, the working for family, starts coming down, and so does the accommodation supplement. So they all add up. The first bit's all right because Alex is allowed to earn 160 a week without any impact on job seeker, but there is an impact on accommodation supplement. So it all adds up. And in those scary bits between, I think it's about 5 and 12 hours a week, the literally the marginal tax rate goes up to 97%. So Alex, for every extra hour, they try and get some more dollars into the family budget. And Alex in those situations is actually working for less than $3 an hour. Yeah, Alex is working as a minimum wage job, $23.50 at the supermarket. But then if you go towards the sort of the 15 hours a week, you are getting into a little bit of breathing space. The yellow, the total of the bars starts creeping up, but in the black line, which is that black dotted line, which is that effective marginal tax rate, settles back down, but it's still 71 cents in the dollar is that effective marginal tax rate. For all of that period, the accommodation supplement drifts down. You lose the job seeker supplement, the job seeker payment once you get past a certain number of hours. The orange payment, which is the working for family, so part of it's family tax credit, and that other element in work tax credit, which comes in, helps bump up the overall income in the hand a bit. But that black line, that marginal tax rate of 71 cents. So once you calculate it all out, if Alex was to work the full 40 hours, so literally both in full-time employment, Alex's job or Alex's employment at the minimum wage is effectively only adding $6. He or she is working for $6.08 an hour for those 40 hours because you're only adding in about a couple of $100 a week. And a couple of $100 a week may sound a lot, but really for 40 hours a week, you're putting $6 and something an hour in. And the big unknown, or the big elephant in the room the other elephant in the room that I haven't captured is the fact that if both Alex and Taylor are working 40 hours a week, we got to add in some childcare costs in there. And imagine what that does to that yellow line in terms of in the hand budget, which I haven't even captured in there. And so it's a struggle. It's undoubtedly a struggle, even if they literally do what everybody else tells them to do, get off their butts, go and find a job and all of that. They're running to stand still, playing by the rules. And of course, that's in the early bits, they haven't got a choice. If you're getting job seeker support, you have to go for jobs, otherwise you'll get sanctioned. But even if you can get rid of that albatross around your neck, you're struggling with the accommodation supplement declining. You're working for families still there, but it's still declining. And why bother? Who in this country would work for $6.08 an hour?
Yeah, that's the fascinating thing to me, because what it does is it really it's a disincentive to go and work. And it's sort of shocking to me that we still have a relatively high participation rate. So we all must have, this has been there for quite some time now. We've had this layering on, starting with working for families, you could argue, then the accommodation supplement, and all of these means tested, not asset tested, means, income tested, income tested benefits, if you like, have been layered in, childcare, various other bits and pieces. And apart from anything else, it's a logistical nightmare now. I mean, how do you know whether you've paid the right amount or whether you paid too much or not enough? And there's this horrible situation with, debts that have been charged interest that, that's the sort of thing that people don't sleep at night over,
Exactly.
And so this isn't new. You were a member of the Welfare Expert Advisory Group, which, had some people who you could argue were from the centre-right part of the spectrum and who could see the basic problems, particularly if you want to get lots of people in work. This is not a way to do it.
No.
So what sort of solutions are there to this this poverty trap, really?
Well, I think it's very much is a mindset issue. You talk about a work incentive. We get caught up, and I remember in the WEAG, we always got caught up in this conversation about the work and the incentive to work. So we couldn't we weren't allowed to give people income unless they were prepared to work, or we weren't allowed to give them too much because that might disincentivize them to work. And so we've got to have, or not got to, but the argument was that these abatement rates were encouraging people to actually work. And I said, well, if you're encouraging people to work, you want low abatement rates, not the 70-cent gut punching, taking off the jobs. You actually want them to earn and keep some of their benefit. Why shouldn't they? Then you have the argument, well, you're going to get people who are earning heaps and heaps and still getting benefit. It's a mindset shift. If we're serious about work incentive, looking after our children and providing people with dignity, we've got to get past the sanctions thing. We've got to get past this idea that they're bad. It's actually not them that are bad. It's us or the system that has been designed by, you could argue, whoever, that that is predicated on the assumption that the poor are bad or somehow have done something wrong and they need to be punished. And that mindset, until we get past that mindset shift, we're not going to be able to devise a system that is fair, for want of a better phrase, that does provide the work incentive, but at the same time enables people to not only look after their children, but to live their lives in dignity.
Yeah, because we actually have an example of a different system which works much, much better, and that's the system we have for those people who happen to be older than 65, which is
Guilty.
yeah. I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to it. 7 years to go, uh, in which you get paid the money, no questions asked, because you're over 65. As long as you're alive, you still get it. There's no checking of your how many houses you've got, if you're working 3 jobs, if you're a High Court justice with a couple of side gigs, or you happen to be a deputy prime minister or whatever. No problem at all. Can we do that with, for example, working for families, or a unemployment benefit, or a sickness benefit, or whatever it is?
I think we have to look seriously at something that simplifies the system. Undoubtedly, it's got to be simple. We can't have this system which continually puts people in debt because they applied for the wrong thing, or received income they thought they should have, but it was actually our fault. We gave it to them, but we're going to give it back when they're in. So it's got to be simple. I'm relatively in favour of basically a baseline benchmark. Something what I call that social floor, and the adequate income as part of that social floor that we all have you could argue, a right to, but we should all receive based on our responsibilities as part of a community, as a society. We give back to that society. It's a quid pro quo. We've got to talk about what those obligations are, going both ways, but we talk about them not from a punitive perspective, but from a perspective of everybody wants to contribute. And most of us do. Yes, there are a few that are going to try and screw the system, but there's always a few. That's what the judicial system is all about. Don't design a system for the bad. You design a system for the recognizing that most people are inherently good. And then that's the mechanism. But unfortunately, the system we've designed is based on sanctions and penalties.
Yeah, but could we afford that? Some sort of like basic income for everyone, a bit like the New Zealand superannuation, but for everyone, between the ages of 18 and 65.
Well, then you're touching on that equity argument and the inequality that we've got embedded in the system. I would push back quite strongly and say, in a country like New Zealand, in a country that can grow food, in a country that has houses, we should be able to afford it. It's a very sad situation if we pretend we cannot afford to look after our people. And if that's your excuse, then I would say redesign the system. Our economy is not functioning. What's the objective? The objective of our economy is to deliver enough to look after our people. That's what we should have prioritised. I would say bluntly, yes, of course we can afford it. It's a political system, the system that has been designed by those who wish to preserve the status quo. And that's bluntly it. And until we can understand the powers of the status quo and push back strongly against it, we're going to be continuing this conversation for a long time. And it's not just this current government, it's previous governments who know about this EMTR. We've all designed this system. We're all reluctant to let go of that status quo.
I should tell Mike Hosking that there is someone in New Zealand paying a 97% tax rate, and maybe he'll join us. Ganesh, thank you so much for jumping Thank you very much for jumping on to the Hoon. You've
Thank
been
you.
with the Kaka. I'll make sure everyone can have a look at Ganesh's work there on Substack. Ka kite anō, ngā mihi nui.
Ka kite.